Good afternoon, and welcome to the Macedon Technologies June webinar, Agile for Low-Code Development. I'm happy to see so many of you joining us today. If you have a question, please use the Q&A function, and we'll cover those at the end. I have Ali Lang here with me, one of our business process architects, who will be moderating the question and answer portion of this session.
Hi, Stacey. Thank you for having me today.
Great, thank you for being here. First, a little about me. My name is Stacey Wright, and I'm the Director of Delivery and Education at Macedon Technologies, and I run our Office of Delivery Excellence, which encompasses our PMO and our business process architect teams. I have over a decade of experience working with Appian, studying with Appian Professional Services, then moving to Macedon Technologies in 2015. I've published articles on governance and have spoken at Appian World on topics ranging from helping teams transition from waterfall to agile methodology, to driving enthusiastic adoption just this past year. My overall goal is to ensure successful programs through the use of methodology and change management best practices. I also conduct customized agile training and coach teams on all parts of the project's lifecycle. Macedon is here to simplify your success by simplifying agile, simplifying and accelerating your digital transformation, simplifying your work, and overall simplifying the success of your Appian program. We were founded in 2009 by a former Appian architect and have grown to over 120 Appian certified consultants. 100% of our staff has passed the level 2 exam, and we're proud to employ around a quarter of the total level 3 Appian practitioners worldwide. We've partnered with over 100 clients to successfully execute over 450 engagements. Our offerings include a comprehensive set of Appian-centric services and solutions, and we work at enterprise scale across all verticals, including significant experience in financial services, manufacturing, education, energy, and life sciences. Macedon is an Appian trusted partner. This year, we were thrilled to receive the Reseller of the Year award at Appian World. Last year, we won the Value Award for our rapid delivery of high-value business solutions, and we proudly display a collection of partner awards from previous years. Now, the path to Agile is getting fairly well worn at this point. Most people have at least peered down the path a bit, even if they haven't actually started the journey. Agile has helped transform and accelerate traditional software projects, but many companies still struggle with making it work. While the development team may be in gear and ready to go, the success of any Agile project depends on a single person guiding the team, the product owner. The product owner has a hefty set of responsibilities associated with their role. They own the product backlog, which includes the requirements definition in the form of user stories, prioritization and clarification. They have authority to prioritize amongst multiple key stakeholders, and they're often aided and advised by business analysts and subject matter experts. Based on Agile best practices, the product owner should also be a member of the business, which ends up with most Agile projects being led by a new, inexperienced product owner. So at Appian World, you may have heard my story of the perfect project that went awry. If not, I encourage you to check out my presentation on accelerating enthusiastic adoption. But there are many more stories like that. Not all are quite so dire as that one, but plenty were rocky. I have personally experienced everything from a project where the product owner was assigned during kickoff, and we coached them all the way through the project, to a project where product owner was assigned during kickoff, but luckily had Scrum Master training, but then had turnover during Sprint 3 to a new untrained product owner. I've had projects where product owners were assigned just prior to kickoff, and so that's an improvement, right? And had read a book or an article, but did not have an aha moment for how everything worked until midway through Sprint 2. I've also had a project where a product owner went absent after the first 3 sprints. Not their own fault, mind you, but their manager did not realize the time commitment would be for the entire length of the project, so piled more assignments onto their desk. I have had projects where there were multiple product owners because the business decided that no one person could be divested away from their work quite that much, so they tried to share the burden. This almost always turns into each product owner trying to overrule the other, or perhaps with one prime product owner who could come in at the end of a sprint and completely change the direction of what the team is doing before the demo, leading to a bunch of rework and long hours. I've had a project where the entire project was put on hold because the product owner could not decide priority. And we ended up building an entirely different application and abandoning the first one afterwards. And I've had several projects where IT decided to take on the product owner role themselves because the business was too busy. In fact, they thought the business was so busy that these IT product owners wouldn't bother the business to figure out how things really should be built. Each and every demo was a disappointment. Now, take these product owners fumbling at their role and add it on top of a low-code development platform like Appian. Any issues you have with Agile get amplified by the sheer speed of development. A high-powered Appian team needs significant input from a product owner. User stories refined and ready to go, mock-up approvals, questions answered, and regular user acceptance testing to keep from getting blocked. In fact, we added an extra requirement to our role and responsibility of a product owner just to make sure the well-oiled engine that can get the direction that we need. 50% allocation. That's right. 50. It turns out that despite the advances in Agile methodology, which has a much higher success rate than Waterfall, the Scanish Group 2015 Chaos Report still lists only 29% of projects are successful, which means on time, on budget, and with satisfactory business value. It came up with a list of core reasons listed here, right? Lack of executive support, missing emotional maturity, poor user involvement, no optimization, and not enough skilled staff. Now, most of our projects do have the first 4 bullet points, but that poorly trained PO, that is unfortunately very common. That makes that high value there on that graphic to the right just seep away. Our own data back this up. We run a comprehensive project audit across all of our projects each month. This audit covers over 50 data points, including methodology alignment, team size, composition, team changes, morale, velocity, whether or not it's under a prime or a direct contract, whether it's a private or public organization, the project length, the contract financial type, whether it's time and materials or firm fixed price. Across all of these data points, and regardless of what filter we put into place, there are 6 key factors that draw the line between low functioning projects that are in danger compared with high functioning projects viewed for pretty much guaranteed success. Half of our key metrics that differentiate a high functioning project from a low functioning one are related to product owners knowing how to do their jobs, taking their responsibility and time commitments seriously, and remaining dedicated to the project. To be specific, we found that 77% of high-functioning projects have product owners who update the product backlog themselves, in comparison to only 22% of low-functioning risky projects. Digging in, it turns out product owners who take the time and effort to become comfortable enough with the product backlog software or request that the product backlog be in a simple Excel file or some other format that they're already comfortable with, right, are more likely to have successful projects. Why? Well, it may be that the ability to add and refine user stories on their own and in their own words, rather than waiting for a pre-arranged refinement meeting, it may be that that's part of what gives these projects an advantage. 92% of high-functioning projects have product owners who devote enough time to their projects while only 50% of low-functioning projects have that same time commitment. And finally, almost 80% of high-functioning projects have their product owners and other key stakeholders stay on the project. You may think that the turnover on low-functioning projects may be because they aren't doing well, people getting pulled off the project because they aren't performing at the level of hopes, but that really isn't what our data found. If a project lands on the wrong side of all three of these metrics, it's nearly guaranteed the project will not succeed. Let me repeat that. It only takes one person. If there is a product owner who is not successfully fulfilling their role and responsibility, the entire project is at dire risk. The puzzle I had, heading up our Office of Delivery Excellence, was how to combat this problem. Is it really the business person's fault? These are highly trusted people who obviously excel in their jobs to be given the honor of running this project team and transforming the way that the business will work. They're smart, they're go-getters. They want the project to be successful. It just doesn't make sense that that would be the core problem, that their interest and excitement could be a problem. So we started asking more questions. Was the product owner trained before kickoff? And if so, how? Was the product owner's boss trained? Did the boss help move responsibilities away from the new product owner in order to make sure the person had enough time to devote to the project? How about SMEs who had valuable contributions? Did they know how thorough of an answer that they needed to give in these scenarios? The answers kept coming back, like the stories I shared at the start. Maybe someone only learned about the role during the kickoff itself. Another person read an article or read a book. Someone else watched a YouTube video. Some of our very best projects have POs who attended generic Scrum training and are certified Scrum Masters. But that can be expensive, and it tended to be long enough ago that they usually needed additional coaching by the time a project started. No, the real answer is our product owners need a timely, practical, good old-fashioned practice. Our conclusion, we needed to train the team on Agile right before a project starts. So we gave it a try. What did we find? Light bulbs going off around the room during the first or second workshop of the day. Oh, that's how we prioritize. Oh, that's how this works. Teams derailing from the original spirit of the practice project within just 2 hours and getting redirected back. Oh, that's why we need to revisit this strategy regularly during a project. We learn a mutual language that the team can use moving forward, no matter if it's the same language that's industry standard, or maybe something this particular team at this particular company can embrace a little better. MVP, a great example. Industry standard, that means minimum viable product. But I had a team suggest using most valued product instead. Same idea, same letters, brilliant. And absolutely the team began using that moving forward. Even IT team members who are used to working in an agile manner found this a useful refresher before starting a new project with a new project team. Practicing right before Sprint Zero gave the team confidence and helped the roles and responsibilities sink in a bit. They had a chance to ask questions early in a safe environment and could practice critical things like prioritization, refining user stories and acceptance criteria, and how to have an effective retrospective before being tested on a real project. There was also a little more time to get the product owner's calendar cleared to make sure that they were engaged fully on day one of the project. The projects after this type of training workshop was performed worked much better in all of our project audit metrics, and productivity and morale of the teams skyrocketed. Yes, success. We were able to bring that high value back into the project. Armed with this evidence, we branched out to having a variety of workshops tailored to the specific time constraints and needs of specific groups within each organization, which we can add on to any of our services projects. Each of these are led by an instructor who brings a practical perspective to Agile courses, being seasoned practitioners of Agile while building multiple successful Appian solutions. Each workshop is tailored for the team's needs and corporate environment while demonstrating the value of the methodology standards and best practices. Our most popular and most original course is our one-day Agile for Product Owners training. This class walks through Agile best practices and includes many workshops to allow product owners to practice building that backlog, prioritizing, and more. The hands-on approach encourages deeper discussion and realization of how critical the product owner role can be for project success. While the target audience is product owners and SMEs, this course is good for all project team members, and as I mentioned, it's a useful refresher for IT staff. The next course we developed is tailored to executives and executive sponsors. This half-day course provides a detailed, practical view of how Agile can positively impact businesses by minimizing risk while unlocking high adoption rates and high value, delivering a significant return on investment. It helps these stakeholders understand the terminology, quite honestly, that the teams are using, and also how these concepts can apply in other settings within the business. The third course we built focuses on sustainability teams who balance production issues with ongoing developments. Though the format is very similar to the Agile for Product Owners, this day-long course details our refined project methodology for a team tasked with modifying and maintaining many applications at once. Aside from these core workshops, we have specific half-day trainings for support teams and QA. Agile for Support Teams discusses the complexity of Tier 1 support of an Agile project that deploys solutions to production early and often. This course details out when and how knowledge transfer occurs in Agile projects, as well as what kinds of information the project team needs to hear back from support when something shows up in production. For QA, testing within an Agile project can be overwhelming to team members new to it, and it becomes even more difficult if they're trying to learn Appian and fitness at the same time. This course covers the principles behind the methodology, provides practical advice for writing test cases from acceptance criteria, and walks through the critical role and responsibilities of QA team members. This agenda is a typical one-day plan for either the product owner or sustainability training that I just talked about. This training includes 3 workshops to focus on: building a robust product backlog from scratch, prioritizing and planning for sprints, and working through an example retrospective. These interactive workshops are arranged to allow multiple people to try on product owner hat if you have multiple product owners within that meeting room, and to provide a clear understanding of the definition of ready and the definition of done, and to impress upon the team the importance of clear requirements or acceptance criteria. Not only does everyone need to be trained, but training needs to be timely. Training is a bit like getting a new car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, you've already lost some of the value. Likewise, people who go through training and don't practice the skills soon after on an actual project can lose up to 70% of their new knowledge. It becomes even worse if the training wasn't very engaging, right? People simply don't learn well that way. So having one set of workshops is simply not enough. Each team needs a refresher right before they start their own project stream. So let's move on to any questions.
Okay, Stacey, have the Q&A up here. So it looks like our first question, John asked, I've seen many projects in my career with all kinds of product owners. What qualities make someone a good product owner?
You know, there are some top qualities to a terrific product owner. First, I would say they must be available. That means prioritizing this project over all of the rest of the work, pushing back on any other work that might be coming in, and making sure that they get answers, give answers to the team in a timely manner. Next, of course, is they must be empowered, right? They need to be able to make those decisions and prioritizations and not be overruled, right? Some of that might have more to do with the management layers above the person, but they must be trusted that they truly understand what the project is about, and that they feel empowered to modify that backlog themselves, like I mentioned, and to speak up if they're uncomfortable with any part of like the project communication, that kind of thing. So they must be fully empowered in that role, right? Another factor is they must really learn to listen, or they must be good listeners. It's important they hear both sides of each argument, that they engage the stakeholders who will actually use the new system down the road, both advocates and dissenters, both sides. And at the same time that they can hear from the project team and what the project team might be saying about the complexity of whatever the requirement is. So they can walk that line between sort of both sides and get the best out of both worlds there. And I think the final one, and I referenced this a little bit earlier too, is they must be decisive. It doesn't help to be available, empowered, and knowledgeable if they can't choose a path the team to go down. Now, someone else has to help them clear their calendar, of course, and somebody else has to empower this person. But I would say these are the core qualities of an excellent product owner.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. This looks like the next question, a question from Kevin regarding the audits. So he's asking, what are the other 3 key factors?
Oh yeah, because I mentioned there are 6 and we only went through 3, right? So our other 3 factors are actually really tied into communication and relationship. The first one I would mention, is having regular one-on-ones between the project leader, so whoever the Macedon project leader is, and key client stakeholders, which could be the product owner. But the important thing is that you have that one-on-one, candid kind of conversation on a regular basis, and build that relationship and that trust, because so much of this entire methodology is about trust in the end, right? Another one is having a weekly status call that includes, of course, the project leader and the product owner, but also one of the project sponsors to discuss any other risks that are going on in the project. And sometimes that project sponsor has visibility into other things going on in the corporation or other parts of the organization that can help remove a roadblock, right? So it's important that the project sponsor be aware of the risks and be actively involved in that kind of weekly status call. And the third one is actually very tied to that, which is the project team needs to have a relationship in management roles above the product owner. It feeds in, nicely with that status call I was talking about, but in part, this is in case the product owner switches, which usually is very unexpected. No, it's not, you always expect you're going to have the product owner for the entire length of the project, but sometimes they get switched out, and it's good to have that relationship already in place with the management above the product owner to make sure that you have the continuity of the project throughout.
Awesome. Okay, so our next question, Shaylin wrote, in an ideal project, what is the minimum training recommendation?
That's a great question. So at minimum, I would recommend either the product owner training or the sustainability training that I mentioned, those 2 one-day training courses. You don't need both usually. I would just choose the one that makes sense for the type of work that is going to be performed. I also highly recommend the executive training, both to make sure that the executives know what the terminology means and how important it is to clear the path for the project team and all that, but also just so that they can begin considering ways to make the company as a whole more agile. The support and the QA test team one, it's only as needed kind of basis. But I would say that the product owner or sustainability, that's really the minimum core, one of those two trainings.
Great, okay. Next, we have Amy wrote that we said the Office of Delivery Excellence includes a PMO. What differentiates the Office of Delivery Excellence from a traditional PMO?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most PMO offices or PMOs are terrific at maintaining templates and training project managers, arranging resources for projects, and like managing contracts, that kind of thing, right? Our Office of Delivery Excellence does all those things. So we have that PMO aspect to us, but we also have access to a lot of data, and we're driven by curiosity. So we have, as a project-based organization, a wide array of projects across a large variety of industries. As I mentioned way back at the beginning of the slide deck, that's been documented for over a decade now. So we began mining this information to validate and correct our assumptions, because we had some assumptions from our own experiences, but we wanted to be sure it was really true. And to look for value that we could bring our clients with supporting services offerings, and to help push our lower achieving projects into more positive ground. We also have some clients who are at different points in the journey to becoming agile and have gotten a really clear picture through the years of the path to getting to success and which kind of pitfalls to avoid along the way. So with our data, we can walk into a brand new client and recognize the signs of where they are, like maybe they're in the beginning stages still, right? And we can change our approach to better suit their needs at that point in the journey, instead of just assuming that they're ready to rocket straight to the end. A lot of times they're just not quite ready for that yet. So it allows us to tailor our approach as well.
Yeah, okay, great. It does look like we have time for one more question. I have a question from Brian saying, could you elaborate more on what is the definition of ready and the definition of done?
Oh yeah, great question. I did mention that during the agenda slide, I think. So definition of ready is a very short checklist of items that need to be ready for each user story before they can be brought into a sprint and be developed. And that one is fairly industry standard. You'll find different varieties of definition of ready just out there. Definition of done, however, is all of the steps that need to be completed at the end of the sprint to consider the user story complete. So it's finished, it's truly done when we say the word done. So we define both of these early during this training before the project even starts to make sure that everyone is on the same page of what those words mean, ready and done. And done in particular may seem simple just on the outside. Hey, did you finish? Yeah, you finished. But we actually have an entire proprietary verification engine devoted to making sure that we can, with full confidence, declare a story done. So done is a very specific definition that we use here at Macedon.
Awesome, thank you, Stacey.
So I think that's all of the questions. Thank you for attending our webinar, and please do reach out if you have any other questions about any of the topics that we covered today. Next month's webinar will be hosted by Colin, our Director of Technology. He's going to be discussing the new Appian RPA offering and how it can help accelerate your business. Thank you very much.